So I've got the Pwnage Ultra Custom wireless today. A lot of you have reached out about this review. This might actually be the most requested review since I started the channel. And it's going to be kind of a rough one. And I don't normally like to do reviews like this, but this thing has been heavily advertised and kind of was crowdfunded. So it feels like more of a PSA at this point than anything. Before we jump in here, I do have to take a minute to thank Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is an amazingly easy, all-in-one platform for creating a web presence and starting your business. Whether you need access to just simple web design, marketing, analytics, or e-commerce, Squarespace has got you covered. Lightweight, wireless, customizable, USB-C paracord charging cable. Sounds great. And in theory, it is. I will say this mouse performs great. It really does, but there are a couple of major issues here that may or may not be deal breakers for you depending on how you look at it. If these issues were corrected, this mouse would be top tier, no question. But as is, both copies that I received for this review are now broken, and we're gonna get into why. You ready? Let's go! Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching BadSeed Tech, and today we're checking out the Ultra Custom Lightweight Ergo Wireless Gaming Mouse from Pwnage. So we have a lot going on with this mouse. It's tough to even know where to start here. Inside the box, you'll get the mouse itself, a USB-C charging cable, a total of 4 different DPI button options, 4 different top shells, and an alternate set of triggers. Packaging looks and feels very premium as well. These are available in either black or white, and when they commit to a colorway, they go all in. White PCB, battery, scroll wheel, wireless dongle, even white and gray patterned paracord. Really clean look here. Wireless, skeletal shell, small to medium ergo shape, closest in size, shape, and hand feel to the EC2. Honestly, very close, but the inset groove is a little less pronounced on the thumb side and on the outside rear flare right above where my pinky rests. Those of you who really follow the mouse market will immediately recognize the frame as the same one used on the Sharkoon Light Squared 200. A lot of the features as well, but we'll touch more on that when we get into value. It measures about 119 millimeters long, 61 at the front flare, 65 at the rear, and 59 at the grip, with a height of 42 millimeters with the top cover. I'll explain. If you're going to use this in palm or claw grip, you'll want or need the top cover, but it also comes off as easy as this. And now you're in what they call fingertip mode. You can also swap this top shell just as easy to a smooth shell if you're not a fan of the holes. Obviously, this affects the weight as well. Smooth shell, I get 72 grams. Skeletal shell is 70 grams. No shell is 65 grams. Changing the top shell and the triggers, super easy. The DPI button, which comes in 2 different colors and 2 different heights, very easy as well. The battery is designed to rest in this little tray here, right in the center of the mouse, and comes right out. So you can run it wired and cut even more weight. Battery weighs like 9 grams. So your total weight without the battery comes down to between 57 and 58 grams. However, the plug and the port on the PCB are really not cut out for this kind of action. On the black copy, I broke the port during testing, but the mouse still works. On the white copy, the entire port pulled clean off the PCB, which now only works in wired mode as it has no access to the battery. In my opinion, this should 100% not be marketed as a feature for this mouse, and if you happen to already own one of these because you backed it early, I do not recommend that you try to do this. And I don't think that's a real stretch, because chances are if you bought this mouse, you bought it for wireless. If what you want is a lightweight gaming mouse with a paracord-like option, there are plenty of other options out there. I was very gentle with these after I broke the connector on the first one, and I did try my fingernails, and I also tried like a little flat blade jeweler's screwdriver. I was even more gentle with the white copy where the port broke all the way off. So talking about this cable, it's refreshing that 1, it's USB-C, and 2, it's not an afterthought. It's a decent mid to high tier stock paracord. It's got all the proper safety shielding, and it's actually very similar to Razer's wired SpeedFlex models. So in terms of flexibility, it's pretty neck and neck with Final Mouse. Not quite to where Glorious's new Ascended cable is, and not to the level of like the MM710 or the G-Wolves mice or the new stock paracord king, in my opinion, the revised XM1 from In-Game Gear. It's still pretty impressive when you consider that it handles charging as well, so it actually is more flexible than like Razer's wireless SpeedFlex cables that also handle charging. There's also no proprietary molding on the port, so you can use literally like any USB-C cable, so I would be shocked if they didn't start to offer these in a ton of different colors. Full charge takes about an hour here. You can play in charge. With the RGB off, it's rated at like 66 hours, and RGB on somewhere around 40 hours. Main triggers are Amano 20 mils, minimal minimal pre and post travel. Side play is pretty minimal as well. Nice and crispy clicks. I really like the triggers here. It's especially impressive when you consider that this entire thing is removable and replaceable. Great design. Side buttons are large, just a touch high for me, but they're workable in every grip, which scores big points with me. Pre-travel is good, but here comes another major issue. Post-travel is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. The front end of the front button extends all the way into the frame, no problem. The rear button does this as well. However, if you continue to apply force, it will keep going into the frame, so far that it pops the top cover off, and so far that it never comes back to its original position. Even if you don't apply enough pressure to cause this issue, you still have side buttons that feel like the EC series, which to me are a great size and shape, but some of the worst feel out there. And I gotta say here too, that outside that kind of mushy feel, I didn't notice the issue with the backside button at all during any of my like 10, 12 hours of gameplay testing. I only figured this out when I went to try to demonstrate that post-travel on camera. So you may not even ever exert enough force to cause this, but you might. Never seen anything like this before. Frame does feel sturdy for the most part. It does have some of the frame flex issues that you can pick up and demonstrate, but nothing that would bother you under regular use. I don't get any rattle here at all either. There's technically no specific place to store the dongle on the mouse that I could find, but you can actually just rest it on the battery and just put the top shell back on, which kind of traps it in there. The scroll wheel is different from the renders that are pictured online. It has a full rubber wheel as opposed to the split design. The wheel color doubles as the DPI indicator color. It's got defined steps, but it's basically silent. Easy to depress as well. Feels pretty sturdy, if unremarkable. Mouse feet here are stated to be 100% PTFE, good thickness, good stability, great glide, one in each corner and the sensor ring as well. The corners are rounded here too, but there are no extra feet included. I want to take a minute to thank Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is an easy, affordable, all-in-one platform to take your idea from concept to a fully realized web presence without securing external hosting, hiring a designer, learning to code, etc. All those common mental hurdles you may run into when you're thinking about designing and launching your own website. They give you a really intuitive straight line path from concept to completion and an end result that looks really professional and, more importantly, current. So you can put that idea you've had out there into the real world in a way that represents you, your goals, and your brand. They make it really easy, and they even offer a free trial without requiring a credit card upfront. So when you're ready to take that first step, go to squarespace.com/badseedtech to save 10% off your first purchase of a site or domain. There is software here. It's very basic at this point. DPI stuff, profiles, basic. I mean, really basic lighting controls, like 3 different modes. Doesn't have the ability to run full time, so it's basically like a firmware flasher. The RGB on the mouse is confined to the logo on the plate on the rear of the mouse. It's visible through the hex shell. You also get a little RGB strip across the back. It may weird you out at first. When the sensor is tracking, the RGB cuts off completely, presumably to save battery. When it comes to rest, the light kicks back on. The way it's positioned doesn't throw light down on the pad either. It's just kind of like a little wraparound accent. So the sensor on offer here is the Pixar PMW 3335 optical. This is basically a 16K max low power version of the 3360. The HP Omen Photon, the Roccat Amano 200, even an early G-Wolves wireless all use this sensor. I searched for any known issues associated with the performance of this sensor, and I came up empty-handed. If you know of any, please let me know down in the comments. After logging about 10 to 12 hours on this copy and cycling between this, the GPW, and the Viper Ultimate, I didn't notice any performance issues, disconnects, sensor float, input lag. It performs really well, and my click latency testing indistinguishable from running in wired mode and any of my other wireless mice. It performed like a champ in-game, and I was able to do work with 0 adjustment period. I still normally main the Razer Viper Ultimate. I think that's saying a lot. So let's talk pricing and value. I don't know exactly what final retail pricing will be on this mouse. It's currently stated as $149.99 MSRP on Indiegogo, but I'm being told it will most likely fall somewhere around north or south of the $100 mark. Right now it's open for $89, which if it didn't have these issues, would actually feel like a steal for this mouse. Dead serious. I say would because I have some major concerns about the quality control here due to the fact that both mice were damaged, one to the point of no longer being usable during testing, and it kind of feels like a where there's smoke, there's fire type situation. Initially, this is where I had planned to get into stuff on the manufacturing side because it's easy to look at a mouse like the Sharkoon and go, oh, it's the same OEM shape, oh, it's the same OEM mouse, they just added wireless to it. I get that, but that argument misses a couple pieces. For one, each brand, even though they're using the same OEM shell, might put a different emphasis on quality control and on product revisions. I'm sure it's no accident that this mouse came to market with a different scroll wheel than the one shown in the original pictures, the same one shown on the Sharkoon mouse. Similar OEM shape or similar OEM feature set does not necessarily mean the same level of end product. It's also worth saying too that neither of the other two mice I mentioned are even available in the US at this point. So while the price of the Light Square 200 in markets where you can actually purchase it right now might be equivalent to $55 US, you can't say, oh, it's a $55 mouse with wireless tacked on. The reality is you can't even buy that mouse in the US. And if you could, you sure couldn't buy it for $55 because you'd be paying crazy shipping if you were going to try to import it yourself, or you'd have a built-in import tax if another company was going to import it and warehouse it for you here in the States. For example, that $55 mouse might look more like $69.99 or $79.99 by the time that you could purchase it easy on Amazon US. Based on my experience with my copies, I can't recommend this mouse right now. In theory, if you could get a perfect copy, it's really a great mouse. It could be. It's not all bad, obviously. The battery issue could likely be fixed with an easy revision, or they could simply stop marketing this as a feature. Side buttons, I don't know, but it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So I guess all I can say is that if you decide to pull the trigger on buying one of these, at least you're going in with all the information. As always, any questions, hit me in the comments or drop by the Discord. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.